Welcome to the Healthy and Wealthy and Wise podcast with global sales trainer and professional speaker, Lois Kofi. Each week, it is her goal to share inspiration and education for you to be, do, have the best health and wealth and wisdom for your life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Lois and Didier Kofi this time, leading you guys through our weekly broadcast for Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. This is my podcast show. Normally, I do it every Friday at 12:30 Pacific time. However, there's times like today where I have a special message with a very, very VIP couple in this case, where we want to make sure we cover a topic that is timely, important, and hopefully inspiring you and equipping you to live your best life. And specifically, we are going to be talking about, our title today is Colorblind Marriages and how to navigate these times of COVID-19 and social civil unrest. If you are in an interracial couple like we are and like our guests today, and if you have children who are growing up during these very interesting times. So today, without further ado, I want to dive in because we could go for 30, 40, 60 minutes. If you are attending live, please hit hashtag live and where you're tuning in from. If we get time, we are going to open up for questions later, but feel free to comment, throw in your positive thoughts. Please share this with your friends and family members because we believe this is one of the most powerful messages that we will be sharing for all of time. So today we have Mr. and Mrs. Sam and Kim Bean from Houston, Texas, online with us, and we're going to be talking about their experience in life. They have a very, very powerful story. If you don't know who they are, just really quickly, a brief bio. They're going to share more about their journey, but they've been actually mentors to me and Didier for 5+ years now. They came into our life in 2015 and forever changed it. And we'll share more about our journey too later, but they are the owners of Foresight Business Academy. They've been in the direct sales industry for 23 years. They've had multiple success in many different industries. They've amassed over $5 million in the past 10 years plus. They're founding members of iBoomerang and winners of the Rock Solid Diamond Award. And they are, most importantly though, I know they're going to share more, but they're parents to two amazing, beautiful boys. And we really want to talk to those parents today and talk to you guys more about what's going on in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over to you guys. And first, whenever I interview someone, I want to know a little bit about your story. And today, since we're talking about colorblind marriages and how things are going on in this world, I know we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, which inspired this conversation about the pain that we're seeing out there right now, the challenges that we're seeing out there right now, and specifically in interracial marriages and families. So why don't you tell us how you guys met and anything that you want to share about your backstory? I'll let you guys fight it out over how much or how little you want to share. And then, and maybe even a snapshot of how you've been able to weather so many different storms over the past almost 15 years, right? Next month, it's going to be 15 years together. So I'll let you guys take it away.
Okay, well, Lois, Didier, there's my story, there's his story, and I guess there's the truth in between somewhere, right? So the truth. I actually moved from a small town from Beaumont, Texas, moved to Houston. Started working for a company, top 500, Fortune 500 company. And I was a newbie to the city. I was a newbie to that particular work environment. I knew a friend that worked not too far from the particular office that I was at. And I moved because I just broke up in a bad relationship and I needed to get out of the city, the town that I was in. So when I moved to Houston, I was all about my dollars, all about the money. And so I wanted to focus on not necessarily the relationship, but focus on getting to know me, making sure that, I stay grounded, making sure that everything that I'm stepping away from is definitely well worth it by moving out, because being Asian, my father did not appreciate me leaving the home. You know, it wasn't until I had to be married and married off before I moved out. And so when I moved out here, this gentleman, this handsome gentleman here, he was one of the top income earners in the company. I'm not a gold digger, but I am a goal, GOAL digger. And because I wanted to focus on my goals and my dreams, who better to pick the brains of somebody that's already making it happen in that particular company. So I asked him out for dinner just so I could pick his brain for the knowledge. I wasn't trying to date. I had a bad relationship. I came out of it. That was not the case. And so, well, actually, I asked for his notes. He's the one that said I needed to go to dinner with him. Long story short, here we are.
And I know it's a lot longer than that, but is this
for the sake of time? Right.
Yes.
For the sake of time, we'll do another podcast on what really happened. But so yeah, a lot of it happened like that. And again, now she really was trying to pick my brain, and I took advantage of it, you know. And I said, hey, look, we're gonna go on a date for this information. You just can't get this for free, you know. Freedom is important. All right? That's
the first time ever that he shared that publicly.
Because I'm on
and it's recorded. Yes.
So,
it's documented.
After the date, she hounded me. So I gave in one day. I ended up married one day, and here we are.
Just like that.
Well, I do have a curious question for you, because just because I know I've had conversations with some of my interracial married friends, and I know my story. I wasn't allowed to marry anyone of color, and it was not accepted. It was not okay. And so I really, not only was I the first person going to go to college in my family, I was also the first person to even date outside my race. And I was stirring the pot and creating all sorts of hullabaloo, and I won't go through all the details, but it was kind of painful. And I was, you know, paving the course for a different future, and then marrying this amazing man and producing two beautiful biracial children. My family eventually accepted it and fell in love, and you know, it all worked out, but it was always a little bit challenging those first few years. Do you have a similar experience, or was it just, hey, no problem, this was accepted from day one and life was good and it was all roses and tulips?
That is the typical Disney, you know, mythical way that we would want to, you know, have that happy ending. We have a happy ending now, but it was definitely not a happy ending. I mean, a happy beginning initially, and very similar to you. With the Asian culture, myself and my siblings, we're the first generation here in America. I was born here in the States, Galveston, Texas. My other siblings, some were born in Vietnam, others were born here in the U.S. And culturally, we were cohesive to the American culture, because that's what my brother and myself knew, because we are Vietnamese American. And we didn't necessarily know the Vietnamese culture, although our parents were Vietnamese and are Vietnamese. And they wanted us to marry within our culture. However, I didn't realize that's what they wanted. They never stated exactly those words. That vernacular was never brought up. It was, you can't marry. Yeah, it was never understood. It was always, you can't marry him. You know, he's African American. You know, that's not what we do. And it was just, to me, it hit me like, you're biased, you're racist. And I had to process that, and it hurt me so much, because here I am, happy for all of my other siblings, which some married white, others married Vietnamese. And my other brother also has a biracial son that his children that are Black and Vietnamese as well. His children were not accepted, but Sam and I had talked about it. That was kind of like that door opener for our relationship, but yet it still wasn't accepted. Our relationship was not accepted for the simple fact that, again, I thought that they were racist, but push comes to shove, being more personally developed and more personally matured in the process of thinking, they're not racist, they're not biracial. What they wanted to relate to me was that they wanted the tradition of the Vietnamese culture to continue. But how it came out, because it was all new to them too, was that you cannot marry him. And it seemed as if that was the case. And our marriage has been a union, like what you said, for close to 15 years now. And they disowned me. They disowned me during that time, and it was hurtful. It was painful. But I knew that my happiness did not lie in their hands. And that was my personal key to my happiness. That no, my parents weren't happy with me, but I was happy. I was happy that I found a gentleman that helped me fulfill everything, all the gaps that I needed to be filled. And he stepped up to the plate. He stepped up to the plate, and it was a challenge for him too, for both of us, because his responsibility weighed heavy. Because then it's like, here, this young lady here left her whole entire family, left her parents, left her siblings, left everything to stay with me, to be with me. And that was quite a burden. Right?
Because at the end of the day, there was never any challenges on my side. My family, what have you, everybody accepted it. My grandmother, before she passed, fell in love with her. Again, as far as my family, they embraced it right away. And seeing what she went through, again, it's when I talk to you guys about it all the time. You don't find a person to complete you. You find a person who compliments you and enhances you, your happiness, what have you. And for a person to be responsible to, bear that type of weight, because I understood, that he wasn't racist as a father. I understood that he wanted the best for his daughter. And at the end of the day, the track record in those type of relationships weren't good. And so, like I told her, what you do is you live your life, be happy. And at some point in time, you got to understand that, absence makes the heart grow fonder. We had this conversation. I said that at some point in time, you're his baby. As long as he sees I'm taking care of you and we are succeeding in our relationship and in life, at some point in time, you'll be allowed back in, and he'll embrace you again as a daughter, and you guys can maintain it. Or you can go ahead and continue your relationship, and so, that's kind of how it was.
And now he's like the best son-in-law that they could ever have. Like, my parents wants to talk to him before talking to me. And my parents don't even speak English that well. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And for me to be, like I said, at that moment, where, to see her and her father reunite, it meant the world to me. And so, because at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure that, I wasn't the reason there's a separation, but, to be part of the reason why, they were able to reunite with his confidence and his blessings. It meant a lot to me. And so, and just to see him as a father again, as we continue to progress in life and business and succeed on different levels, he's even more proud of her. Got a chance to recently see a proud man shed tears, when we bought her dream home, last October. When he came and saw it and sat down, and he doesn't cry. He doesn't cry. I've never seen that guy cry, period. And never heard of him crying, and so, but to see him in that state, emotionally, of pride for her, and then for us, but definitely for her, it did something to me as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And did you, at any point, outside of your family's, supporting or not supporting, did you have any other challenges early on as an interracial couple, just in this world that we live in? Do you have any stories or memories of that you can share?
Well, two things. The only people in my life who didn't accept her were my ex-girlfriends, and they were irrelevant anyway. But it's like I joke with Kim, and we joke all the time. See, the thing about us that about our relationship and our marriage, why it's so successful. We keep an abundance and a surplus of humor involved. And I always said, I said, boy, I'm happy I married you because I don't get stopped in the airports no more. It's like I don't get checked, cavity checks, none of that stuff. Like I said, man, look, I can get to the airport with no problem, man. Thank you very much.
We joke about it. Like if we were to get pulled over, it would be because of me, not him.
She don't. I'm like, is this,
you know, we've never really encountered like major challenges when it comes to us being biracial. And I have to say that it has a lot to do with our personal development, working on ourselves, and knowing that our maturity level is different from most people that are out there. Not to say that we're better or nothing like that. That's not the case. But we understand that we don't take things personally where most people will and would. And we don't, because we know that they haven't gone through their process or their journey. So we don't really take it personal. We've had some challenges, not even really worth mentioning. Some things like, you know, going to a restaurant and, you know, if it's Black owned, then he gets treated much better, like proportion. I'm the one that eats way more, but he gets the bigger portion, you know, just things like that. You know what I'm referring to. Right. Yeah. But just things like that.
She'll send me into a soul food restaurant. I'll send her into the other restaurants, and we'll both come back with what we want.
And we're winning, right? So it doesn't matter what, you know, how they treat the other person, as long as we get the end result we want. Exactly. But you know, just out of all seriousness, we don't encounter a lot of those challenges. When we do, we have to charge it to the fact that they're just naive to a lot of things in life. We go home and we discuss all the details, all the ins and outs and things like that. But those are some challenges that we really have overcome very easily, for the simple fact that we've been through so much, especially within our own family. If we go through it within our own family, it's you know, outside world is no different. You know, it's, you know, you get the worst with your family. And so if we've been able to overcome all of those challenges with our family and not speaking to them for years and they not speaking to us for years, we could overcome anything else when it comes to the other racial tension. One thing I can say, we've never even had to have a conversation with our children. We do have 2 beautiful boys that are biracial, and one is 8 and one is 11. We didn't even have to encounter having any type of biracial conversations with them up until the age of maybe 5 was when Major turned, when he was 5, we're sitting in the car and I like to ask them random questions. And I asked Major a random question. We were driving, he was riding. I said, Major, if you could change anything in the world, what would you change? And I'm thinking, I want to change the color of the sky. I want to change the colors of the rainbow, or, you know, something like that, right? And he hits me with something that was like, it hit me like a big ton of bricks. And he said, I want to change the color of my skin. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? You know, and it hurt me so bad that I was almost in tears, because my husband and I, we work hard, really hard, to get to the point of making sure that we choose specific schools for our children, specific places, that curriculums that they go to, activities and things like that, to make sure that it's a melting pot, to make sure that they learn different cultures and they learn, you know, my side of the culture, his side of the culture, our culture together, and other cultures all around. And so here in our area, you know, we have Indian, we have Middle Eastern people, we all over the globe, Asian, African American, Nigerian, just all sorts of melting pot here. And so when he turned 5 and he shared that with me, I was hurt, but I had to find the root of where that question came from. And the root of it was somebody that had great intentions, but just wasn't knowledgeable in how to handle children that are biracial. Mm-hmm. And so it was almost to a point where she was asking him, are you Asian or are you Black?
Right.
So we had to teach our children that they have the best of both worlds. that the creator makes no mistakes.
Right.
And that you have this beautiful combination and this beautiful melting color within your skin. And it's a beautiful thing to have, that everybody, wishes that they could tan, or wishes that, they're able to just, fit in, get in where they fit in. And we haven't had that conversation ever since, because with our second son, we taught differently as well. We went ahead and staged and let them know, look, you're going to encounter some things, but you're beautiful as you are. God made you perfectly. And so we did have to have that dialogue, and also recently some other additional dialogues too.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we're going to get to today and the topics relevant. And I mean, you guys, because of your growth and your strength as a couple, I believe that's how we found you. You had worked on yourselves. We were in a tight, terrible situation, and we had pretty much lost everything, evicted from our home, and we found you guys. And ever since then, not having a lot of support externally from our families, to be quite honest, you were lifesavers in helping us grow together as a couple,
Yep.
As parents, and of course financially, emotionally. And it's the emotional intelligence that you have given us that has brought us to a place where we're honored to be connected to you guys.
Well, thank you for trusting us and allowing us to be a part of your lives. That means a lot.
But it says a lot about you guys, because submission is one of the most powerful traits that you can have as a person, as a human being. And so again, it says more about you than it does about us.
Well, thank you for
Thank you,
being
sir.
so humble.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let's go into today, because I know we could probably talk about those conversations for hours.
Right.
We're already over 20 minutes in. So how have you guys navigated? Obviously, you've amassed a lot of success. You're juggling a lot of things. And then now COVID-19 hits, and you're forced to homeschool. I call it pandemic style, and having to, there's been a lot of other couples, domestic violence has gone up, and, arguments has gone up, and there's all these layers, and we'll get to the social unrest here. But COVID-19 happened first. What happened for you guys, and how have you navigated that, and especially with your kids and homeschooling?
For me, like I said, it was hardest for me because I had about 6 or 7 trips that I had to cancel right away. Out of the country, in the country. And it's just having to sit home and having to think about all of the people who we're in business with, how this is going to affect them and their lives. Those are my greatest worries, really and truly, because I live with my
This
doctor,
beautiful woman.
this beautiful doctor. And so he's my quarantine expert, our sanitation expert, our in-home chef, everything. And so this situation for us is a situation of privilege. Let me say that, because one, we're in a place where we are not around each other 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even though we're in the same house. The house is big enough for everybody to be somewhere and not get on everybody's nerves. Because what you said when you said, I have a business on the side when it comes to, dealing with people who have spousal abuse has increased, child abuse has increased, elderly abuse has increased, all type of tension has increased. Plus, you got kids who are now at home who can't go see their kids. The kids at school, they can't go outside and play. They're trapped, and some of these parents, think the exact opposite. They think that they're on a summer vacation or a summer break or something like that, when it's totally the opposite. Kids who committed suicide because of this very situation. And so, for us to have these conversations and continue to communicate with our kids and communicate the luxuries that they have, and to be appreciative of them, to keep them out and about, riding bicycles, shooting basketball in the yard, or swimming, or whatever it is, we're conscious of mental health, because if we're, unfit in home to take care of each other, then we're definitely unfit outside in the real world to take care of everybody else's life. And so, for me, those were, the things that I personally focused on and dealt with the most. Our relationship is strong, so we don't have to worry about those things. So for me, those are the things that for me, I had to worry about. But she had a whole entirely different level of worry, when it came to COVID-19. I'll let her go into those things for you guys.
I'm not an educator at all as far as my background for children. I might be considered an educator or mentor coach to adults, but children, that's like, you got to pay me more to do this. It was definitely an environment to adjust to, having to, normally we get the kids going, get them breakfast, feed the puppy and, on their way to school, and then pick them up at 3 and then help them with homework from there. But having to wear the hat of an educator and then the hat of a lunch lady, a counselor, a principal, the teacher, all of those hats is definitely something different to adjust to. It was more worthwhile because of the fact that now I can really see and appreciate even more the educator's perspective of the children, because now they're at home and having to log in and learn the system and all that great stuff. If I was to be thankful of COVID, the only part that I would be thankful of is the fact that it happened towards the end of the school year and not the beginning, because that would have been disastrous. But I did get a chance to help the children evolve and grow and then learn from how their thought process is, because I did take it for granted, sending them off to their teachers and letting the teachers handle it. And all I have to do is just work with them with their homework. It was an adjustment. Then having to adjust with working from home, because we already have a home-based business, but yet we still travel, we still move around, we still have to do business from home. So now having to adjust that schedule to, okay, this time frame is allocated for the boys and their education and making sure that they get everything done within that time frame. And then also making sure that they go outside, get their PE, get their recess, get their activities, so they just won't be confined to the household. But it was definitely a total different adjustment from all aspects. But one thing I can say is that they're healthier at home.
Yeah, and then at the same time, from the COVID perspective, we are a lot closer as a family. We really and truly had more communication, the best communication of our lives. In totality, let me say that. The better relationship with kids, obviously, and that means a whole lot, to them, because one of the biggest things when you look at one of the big topics about what's going on and what's wrong with the world today is that most fathers are not at home. And even when you have a father that's in the house, but he's not at home because he's always traveling, it takes its toll on the kids, and it does affect them. And so for me, being able to be home with the boys, and teach them some things on a regular basis that I couldn't teach them consistently, they helped a lot. But also, I lost 30 pounds because of my dietitian over here. And so it put me in a position where she can focus on me and I can focus on me and I can get that weight off. And so, I mean, it has its benefits, it has had its benefits, that's for sure.
Meanwhile, I stock up on Tylenol and Advil. I'm joking.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I got to give you guys kudos, because obviously you've been working with amazing mentors like Mr. Holton Buggs and Mr. Edwin Haynes and Mrs. Erling Buggs for, almost a couple decades now. So you guys were almost, I don't want to say built for this pandemic situation, but kind of, and you're thriving through it. Can you give any guidance or mentorship or advice to especially couples, especially interracial couples who are out there who are on their own, they don't get any support, or single parents out there who are struggling right now through this process? You talked about mental health, suicide. Those are huge passions of mine. That's why this podcast is called Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, because I feel like with your health and your wealth and your wisdom intact, anything is possible. And you've always taught us that. But what do those folks do right now?
First and foremost, they need to seek out mentors. You need to find people who have their best interests in heart in multiple areas of their life. And so when you look at, we talk about 2008, back in 2008, we went through a situation where we were not as far along as we were, or as we are, personal development wise, wisdom wise when it comes to finances and relationships. And we were going through foreclosure, repossession, bankruptcy. She was 6 months pregnant, and again, we were losing everything, losing 3 companies, and just losing our sanity. And it took the words of, a wise man, our mentor, Houghton Bugs, to say, hey, look, you're thinking about today. If you think today is going to be bad, think about how bad tomorrow is going to be when you don't prepare for it while you still have the day to think about it. And, it's going to get worse if you don't get smarter, if you don't get wiser, if you don't tap into information that's going to take you to the next level in life while you're going through it. Because it's not what you go through, it's who you are while you're going through it that defines what your tomorrow is going to look like. And so that being said, we end up, putting ourselves in a position to say, hey, let's buckle down. We're going to launch this company with Mr. Bugs and Mr. Haynes. And, if we lose our cars that were already in repossession, we'll get more. We'll get the ones we really want. If we lose this house, we're going to get the one that we really want. At the end of the day, we need to go out here and make, the sacrifices that we need to make so our kids won't have to go through the things that we grew up through. And so that was first. And so we beat foreclosure, repossession, bankruptcy, went on to make millions of dollars in that company. And so, like you said, when you said we were built for this, we were conditioned for this. We were put in a position where when it happened again, it wouldn't affect us. As a matter of fact,
And we built it during.
And we built it through a recession. Like I said, during that recession in 2008, we did all of that. As a matter of fact, so much so that they wrote an article about us in Success Magazine about how we weathered the storm of it. And so, again, it's right now, you have to be courageous. Right now, you have to go out there and make a wise decision after you've actually sought counsel. Right now, you have to, if you have in a relationship, whether it's biracial or not, you have to get with your partner and come on one accord and have each other's back, because you can go through anything together, but it's a whole lot that you can't weather the storm, or if you're going at it apart, it'll rip you apart. So mentorship, courage, and unify.
Even if you're a Packers fan, right?
That's even right. If you're a Packers fan.
I'm gonna show you what unity is. See, from one Cowboy fan to an ex-Cowboy fan. See, so now a Packers fan, that's what unity is. When you understand the head of the household situations, is that I'd rather have a happy husband, a happy life, than have a Dallas Cowboy rivalry in my house under my roof.
See, this is how we're biracial. He's a Vikings fan, I'm a Cowboys fan, and we still love each other. Go figure, right? It works.
Oh, God.
You know, I had threw that in there, right? Now, before we...
I almost wore my Packers shirt, and she told me don't do it. I knew she was going to have, out of all her wisdom, out of how great she is, I knew she was going to have a moment of pettiness. You should have worn my shirt.
Hey, I would have had technical difficulties. We might have had to reschedule.
Yep. This production editing.
Why y'all always be heard on the film? I understand.
We love you guys. So this is equal opportunity. We can all get along. We can believe in different teams and in different whatever and still love each other. So that's what this is. We all are one. That's part of my messaging. Yeah. One more question on COVID, and then we'll switch over. How have you guys been? Because I don't watch the news much at all, but I happened to hear yesterday that Houston is like on the rise with COVID outbreak or whatever. And whether it's true or not, how are you guys navigating quarantining, and staying connected with your clients, your family members, all of that kind of stuff? Any best practices? Because I know you, like you said, you were used to being a road warrior and building business out in the trenches, which that's how we got close and how we got connected, is because you dug down deep, you traveled to our city, you helped us, you linked arms with us instead of just telling us what to do from afar. And I know that impacted us greatly. So how are you navigating all of that during the quarantine?
Basically by evolving, and this is the thing, at some point in time, you're going to have to catch up, with how business is being done. And even before COVID, everything has been done online. Everything has been done by video. And now people are forced to do it. Just like, you had your companies that are out there globally saying, stay away from home-based businesses. and now they're forcing you to work from home, and some even permanently saying, like my sister, she's now been relegated to stay at home and work from home. They've given her assignment, they've given her laptops, they've given her cameras so they can make sure that they monitor her at home. And so now they're going against what they've been preaching for years. Don't do a home-based business. Don't go home and work. Well, this is where we're most comfortable. This is where we make our fortune. This is this is the same environment that saved our life, saved our house, saved our cars. So this is a cakewalk for us, and so for us, it's not adapting, to really anything at all, except for being able to come and really hug you guys. That's what we're losing, the interaction, the physical interaction. But as far as being at home, again, it really has put us in a position where we're forcing our people to evolve. And so when this is all said and done, everybody's going to be performing and functioning on a much greater level, so with better skill sets. So now they can go out there. You got people who didn't know, like if you said click the mouse, they probably jump on the table and said, mouse, what are you and now you got people who are doing Zooms, you got people who are doing like split screen interviews, what have you, people who got podcasts, people who are blogging, you got people who are now, remember, because people are evolving. Anytime you get pushed in the corner, anytime you get forced to make a decision, that's when you become your best. That's when you evolve. Because remember, it's like you don't save your house, when you're just one payment behind. You save your house, 9 times out of 10 when they're about to take it. When they say you got the red letter, not the yellow one. You got the red one, not the white one. When you got the red one, not the blue one. It's the red one that forces you to save your house, because right now it's now or never. And right now, 40 million people have applied for unemployment in this country, right? And 30% of the companies that close down are cash and carry companies that won't open up again. So 40% of those people won't even have a job when this thing is over with. So they have to evolve, and that some of them have been faced with that reality. They've embraced it, they understand it, and they've went out there and started doing all types of different things. You got some people right now who are sitting at home in denial, and I pray for them. There's nothing that you can really do for them until they have their conscience interrupt. But for us, again, being locked at home with her, my chef, my cook, my kids, with a big pool and a basketball court, it's nothing for me. It's just like we was talking about this other day. Our old house, which was 2,500 square feet, we probably would have been at each other's throat in that house because it's tight. You know what I'm saying? It's real tight. All the rooms are right there. No pool in the backyard. You know what I'm saying? I can't go to the other side of the house because the other side of the house is right there. And so it's different. It's different. Like, go to your corner, go in the closet, right? Something like that. But, it's different. Like I said, it's for us. The personal development over the years, again, it is the ultimate reason why we are able to not coexist, how we can live our actual life, without any hiccups and without any setbacks.
Awesome.
Business-wise, there wasn't that much adjustment. Yes, we've already was doing webinars and Zooms and what have you, and conference calls and everything over the phone. As far as like adjustments, and you mentioned Houston and the numbers increasing and everything like that, that may or may not be true. We don't know. We are, you said he was the road warrior. He's now the home warrior. Like, he goes nowhere. And if safety, you mentioned safety. We have, I'm staring at a bottle of Odoban cleaner right now, but we have it everywhere. We have hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, the whole 9 yards. And when we're going
anything
somewhere,
that's got 99%, kills 99% of anything, she's got it.
Correction, 99.99%.
I agree.
But, that's my role, is to make sure that the household is protected and make sure that everything is up to par. When we, as far as like household adjustments, going to the grocery stores curbside, we haven't yet to eat out maybe twice since March, twice. Mm-hmm. And normally we're eating out at least every other day, and so those are the adjustments. We're doing online. If the kids need to go to the doctor, everything is going to be online over the phone, and that's what we've come to. We've acclimated to that. And
one other thing on family, because that's the thing about people wanting to be around the people who they love, their friends, what have you. every Sunday, I came up with this thing where we get together and have what I call family reunion. And at 5 o'clock every Sunday, we're all online on Zoom, laughing, cracking jokes, going crazy. You bring what you want to bring, your cigars, your whatever you're gonna sip on, your cognac, your beverages, whatever it is, and we'll just have a good time. And it really has helped a lot of people subside the need, kind of just counsel the need of going out and putting their hands on somebody and like hugging somebody, just because I can now see you and talk to you and joke and everything else.
Yeah. Well, on that note, my family is not that technical savvy, especially my parents. And so what I take that hour, 45-minute drive there and back. So that's, 3-4 hours there. But I have that's my road time with the children. He's gone with me too. That's our road time. But we don't go inside the house. We're literally dropping whatever off. They Lysol everything down. They bring it in, but we're waving from the garage or we're waving from the curbside. And that's enough for us. And so, we've implemented those things just to make sure that, our family is still our priority, and let them know that we're here for them to support them and make sure that, all of our family members are okay.
Awesome. It almost sounds like it's bringing you guys closer together because you've adapted and found ways to make it happen. I like that. Cigar and cognac. I might have to try that. So
I put up a whole picture of us. As a matter of fact, when we were in Cancun, Mexico. Me, you, and Carly sitting down having a cigar. No,
that's
no.
Good memories. Good memories.
I'm going to take the batteries out.
What?
You got that.
Carry on.
I was just going to let that sit for a while. But anyway, now moving on to a very serious topic. Actually, the catalyst of having this call was George Floyd and what happened in Minneapolis. It was really kind of it was devastating for us because our kids' daycare was like less than a mile away from where George Floyd was murdered. I got gas at that gas station right there. We lived there for 10 years. We raised our children there because it was a more interracial community, and yet George Floyd, being from Houston, had moved to Minneapolis in 2017 to have a better life, and we all know what happened. And that unrest is brought up 400 years worth of whatever you want to call it, trauma, pain, karma, inequality, and injustice. How have you guys navigated that since then, and with your kids, being an interracial couple? I've gotten calls from couples who are challenged because now there's a strain on their relationship because of the fact that they're different colors, and their families are upset. And anything you care to share, and because that's a big topic, you could go in many different directions. I'll let you guys guide that.
Sure. It has been a big hurdle for us. Number one, that's just very inhumane. And when I first saw the video, and I did see the whole entire video, I just couldn't fathom the idea that a person could be so inhumane to do that. But anyway, moving forward, how did we move forward and come to some conversations that we've had? We had to sit down with the boys and let them know that this is the type of things that are out there. I shared a moment ago that we didn't have to have this type of conversation because we worked hard to make sure that they were in an environment of no judgment zone. But the reality is that this is the reality. And so we had to have a discussion with them, a very mature discussion that we don't typically would have with an 8 or 11-year-old. But, we said, hey, put your big boys drawers on and we're going to have this conversation. And we didn't show them the video. They saw snippets of it pertaining to this particular video that we showed them. It had little snippets of it. And it was quite hurtful for us to have to do that. And to be able to have to share that with them, it was hurtful for them. You could see the pain in their eyes to see that was something that happened out there, because we protected them from things like this for a very long time. For 11 years, we protected them from this. what we realize is as parents that we have to teach and train our children of the reality of life that's out there, and we won't be there to protect them 24/7. And so we had to have that conversation. He spoke about it from his perspective as a Black male. I spoke about it from the perspective of Asian. And, you know, with like when we talk about COVID right now is looked at upon as it came from China. No, I'm not Chinese, I'm Vietnamese, but yet I look like I have characteristics of a Chinese person because we're all Asian. And so they have looked at me differently, the outside world. They have looked at my parents differently. They've looked at my siblings differently when they've gone to the doctor and what have you. They've been treated differently just because their eyes were a little bit more slanted than, you know, that looks very similar to Asian people. So then my youngest son, he says, "So mom, does that mean there's two things working against us? People being, yes, people judging us because we're Asian, and then people are judging us because we're Black." And we had to tell them, you know, you're going to be judged regardless. So it doesn't matter what you're judged as, you're going to be judged. It's who you are and who you end up becoming that allows you for that to either hurt you and make that a hurdle, or allow you to push forward and say, you know what, I will be above and beyond that. And I will be bigger than that situation. And so that's the perspective we're teaching them. We're not hiding the fact that it is out there. I do feel that, you know, resolution can take place, and it starts with, you know, our household. It's something learned, something that we saw the other day on the video, that this can be eradicated. And, you know, this could be completely gone. Racism could be completely gone, period, the end, if it starts at the home first, and teaching our children throughout their years of lives that yes, there are people that will look different from us. There are people that are very unique from us, just the way we look unique and we are unique from other people. That doesn't make them better. That doesn't make them worse. That makes them unique. And you appreciate them for who they are and what they could bring to the table as human beings, not as a color. And so, you know, it's very heartfelt having to go through the situation. Very hurtful, very painful. And for those that are turning a blind eye to it, it's the reality. If you're turning a blind eye to it and thinking that it doesn't exist, or you don't want to discuss it, that's part of the problem. That's part of the challenge where this world is today, is that you're not willing to face the reality of it.
For me personally, like I said, for me, there's a lot of emotion. You know, I've dealt with it as a kid. Like I said, I've had physical encounters. I grew up in Fifth Ward in Houston, Texas, and we call them the projects, Section 8 housing, and you know, I've had physical, you know, physical reactions with, you know, police officers. And a matter of fact, one of the officers that physically kicked me at the age of 15 for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Basically, he just passed away. His name was Big John. And so I had another situation where I was 17 and I had a Raiders jacket on. I was eating at a Church's Fried Chicken, and police officers came in, basically said they were looking for somebody who fit, you know, my description, that just ran by, that they were chasing. And the lady told them, hey, look, he'd been sitting here for a while, and they had me come outside and was telling me, hey, look, you need to take your jacket off because that's a gang affiliated jacket, you know, people who wear Raiders jackets or in gangs, what have you. And, you know, just, you know, basically when I refused to take my jacket off because it was a Raiders jacket, he basically pushed me against the wall, you know, just like thrust me against the wall in a very vicious and violent manner. And, you know, so when I took the jacket off, he took the jacket, put it in his police car, and told me to leave the premises of the place where I was at, even though I still had food there, even though I was still a patron of the place. And so it's just those type of things that I dealt with, you know, coming up, seeing my fathers and uncles, you know, again, mistreated, mishandled by police officers when I was a kid. You know, there's a lot of bad memories, you know, tied to that, you know, but then at the end of the day, I've also had, you know, good experiences, you know, when it came to Caucasian cops, you know. And so again, like I tell my kids, again, it's not a a white person problem or a black person problem. It's a person who's been raised the wrong way problem, you know. And so at the end of the day, the philosophies of the home, you know, that they came from is what created the person, the human being who you're interacting with. So, you know, again, at the end of the day, everybody sees color. You know, you have people who say, like, I had my kids watch the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experiment from, you know, Jane Elliott, and she was showing, you know, this kid, you know, about how she said that, well, I don't see color. Well, you know, you do see color, because if you didn't see color, you would say that. You know, you would tell a person you look beautiful for a black person, or you look, you know, something, things, statements that they do, or you over, and some of you women out there heard this, you did great for a woman, you know, or, you know, as it pertains to the workforce or achievement or stuff like that. It's just, it's a backhanded compliment, you know. And so it's more disrespectful than it is, you know, a compliment, if anything. But you know, just having my kids watch videos, like right now this week, again, just like last week, we had them watch different videos, different days, and do little reports and what they got out of it. And this week we're gonna be doing the same exact thing, just continuing to have them watch different videos. You know, I know Oprah's got some great stuff out there, and a couple other things that you see on YouTube that has nothing to do with violence, that has everything to do with education. You know, we're having them watch, so they can have a educated perspective, not a biased perspective. Absolutely. Because again, I'm not willing to, you know, poison my kids' understanding just to get a point across. You know, I'm not going to turn my kid against a nation or a race that has done nothing to them in particular, that they're going to have to coexist with, you know, for the rest of their lives. And so, you know, again, it's just, you know, me being able to, you know, one, because it hit me hard. Like I said, it set me back, and it put me in a position where I had to think about how I was going to be a part of the movement, you know, from a standpoint of the movement of correcting the problem, you know, and being a part of the solution. And, you know, and just continue to come up with ideas, and continue to come up with support, and continue to come up with different things that I could do to make sure that I do my part, because I can't sit back and relax and hope this thing goes by and turn a blind eye to it, you know, deaf ear to it, because it's happening. And if it doesn't get fixed now, it may never get fixed, because at the end of the day, you know, George Floyd, you know, when he died, and it should be as a martyr from the standpoint of him being the person who, just like Emmett Till, you know, when he was treated the way he was treated, created so much change, you know, at that time. And but that change was just for that phase, for that season. It's a whole entirely different season, a whole entirely different phase of change that needs to be had. And even after this is done, it still won't be a change of completion, because it's still going to have to be another level, because it's so deeply rooted in the spirits of people who believe that you know, again, it's just 3 or 4 or 5 generations from now. It's again, if it has to be an opportunity, if it has an opportunity to be eradicated, it won't be anytime soon. You know, but it will definitely be with the progression of people stepping up and attacking it head on, instead of turning a blind eye to it, afraid that they're going to lose friends, lose favor, lose contracts, lose customers, and all this other stuff that they're afraid that they're going to be losing.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask Didier too. I know I've been doing all the talking over here, but do you want to share anything from your perspective? I mean, you came from Africa. You grew up with a wide variety of diversity in Paris, France, and you've been also helping our kids with some history classes on that. So any other perspective that you want to share?
Oh, absolutely. The recent events that we've all been, you know, in the middle of brought very different reactions to different people, but a lot of unrest for sure. I mean, and for me, being actually an African, I was born in Africa. And I had to grow up in Europe for part of my life, for about 10 years, as a young kid in Paris, in France. So there was a little bit of racism going on there, but it wasn't as extreme as what I've experienced in the United States, to be frank. So I do believe that maybe it's because also I was a very young kid surrounded by other young children, and we all grew up together, and we were of very different races. I was from West Africa. I had friends from North Africa. I had friends from Vietnam. Actually, my best friend when I was a kid was from Vietnam, and we're still friends today. I have connection. Yes. So I've been surrounded by the Vietnamese culture as a child because of my friends. So I went to some of their celebrations. I was introduced to their food and all that stuff. As a very young age, I was blessed to be exposed to different cultures. People from Spain, from Italy, from England, from Russia. I mean, Europe and Paris in particular is a ginormous melting pot. So as a young kid, I understood very quickly that diversity is a normal thing. And I grew up surrounded by that. When I came to the United States, I was a little bit shocked, frankly, that there was still this division between the minorities, let it be a Black community, an Asian community, or Latino community, and the white community, which is something that I had never experienced to the extent that it can happen in the United States when I was in Europe. So it took some adjustment. It's been 25 years now that I'm in the United States. The great majority of my life I've spent in the United States. But I have to say that I've been exposed to racism on different occasions. As part of my education curriculum, I hit some walls because of racism, where I was not necessarily given the same type of credentials that I believe I had, intellectually potential that I had. And I really had to fight very, very, very hard to be able to be given, to have some doors open throughout my academic career. Same thing professionally. I ran into obstacles also because of my race, because of where I came from. I came from Africa. So people were doubting my degrees. People were doubting my abilities. People were doubting my intellectual potential because I speak differently. I look differently. And it was a constant I had to prove myself to the system to get anywhere I want to go.
Yeah.
And that's a reality that's still very, very, very present in the US. And the recent events just brought back a lot of the memories of the struggles that I had to go through. But I also realized that along the way, I have met people who are very different, that are not like that. I've met a lot of individuals, and I call them angels sometimes, but that should be the normal way, right? You don't have to be an angel just because you treat people normally, but it felt to me like that because they were so different from some of the other experiences that I had. Throughout my professional career, as well as my academic career and some of my social circles, I've met people who had the biggest hearts and they didn't look like me. You know, they came from different cultures, they came from different history, value systems, different religions, but they were still very accepting, very loving, very caring. So I came, as Mrs. Bean said, really it all depends on the environment in which they've been raised, really determines the kind of individuals that they are. And I've experienced that firsthand. And with our kids, we really try to make them understand that it's not so much that people of a certain color are a certain way. It's how did they get raised? What kind of value? What kind of role model was presented to them as growing up? And we want our kids to have proper role models around them. We want them to also be exposed to different cultures. So we've started traveling a little bit around the world with them, and we plan to do even more of that to give them this opportunity to grow up a little bit like what I had when I was a kid, and I was able to see the diversity, the beautiful diversity of the world. I want my children to experience that too as they grow up, so they can understand that it's a very big world, and that it's also a beautiful world if we know how to approach it properly.
Yeah, and we actually, man, and we talk about football, and we talk about the Kaepernick deal, and how he's fighting for what the flag should represent, as opposed to what it actually currently represents, and so many people who are twisting his intention around based on their ignorance or based on their denial or based on the fact that they don't want to touch base with it head on. And for me, when I just remember just, going to the military, and when I scored, because the military was my way out, it literally was my way out of the ghettos, whatever you want to call it, way out of the projects, way out. And I went in the military to, one, to have a different life, but to get my mom a house, because I had heard that, you can get a house real easy and you're a veteran. and those type of things. And so when I went into the military, we took our test, the ASVAB test. And, when you look at the test that you take, to go into college, the higher you are, rather the higher your IQ is supposed to be. Well, in the military, when you take the ASVAB test, the higher your test score is, the better the job, you're supposed to get. Plus, there's some bonuses tied to, certain scores as well. And I remember going into my unit, I scored extremely high, on the ASVAB test. But they put me in the infantry division, and what I noticed is that, the jobs that I qualified for were extremely corporate level, high level, tech level type jobs. But they put me on the front line, one. And then when you look at the Caucasian men and women that they put on the front line with me that scored just as high as I did, or that maybe didn't score as high at all, they gave them $4,000 to $8,000, as a sign-on bonus to take that job, right? And so, again, when you look at the differences, in how people are treated and how things are happening, in that time, and that was back in '90. That's when Reagan was in office, and we were going to war at that time. But it's just, you look at different things, person per person, case per case, and look at who got the bonuses coming in, who didn't, who got all the things, all the benefits, who got the best jobs, and who didn't. It's crazy when I look back at those years, some of the best years of my life. And again, some of those, again, my patriotic years. Like literally. I became more patriotic, more, loving of my country and everything, being in the Army. So when I came home, obviously I came home a new man, and woke to who we are as a country and everything else. But to see, people say, well, that's not what you should do, kneeling, to the flag. For me, I, went to war and fought for you to, do whatever you want to do. I fought for you to disagree with me, even though I would hope you wouldn't. I would hope that I fought for your right to actually be racist, even though I would hope that you wouldn't. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's what we fought for. We fought for you, period. For you to tell the man not to be able to do this, especially for what he's doing it for. That's why you see so much happening right now. That's why you see all the athletes now coming together. That's why you see, all the celebrities coming together, because, now that they're at a point to where, at the end of the day, if you won't listen to us, we'll make sure that, we'll go out and take a stand on our own. We'll create change on our own, so, but it's just crazy out there right now,
Yeah.
Well, I know we could probably go for another hour. Do you guys have time for one more question, or do you need to run?
We're good.
We're good.
Okay.
I'm going for you, Didier.
And actually, I just have to make a comment. Someone voted for Didier for president. So just so you know. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan Charpentier. I know that when we met you, and you're the owners of Foresight Business Academy, and you always had the saying, we know you're healthy and wealthy before you do, and you taught us a lot of wisdom. So I want to just acknowledge everyone that you guys helped inspire the title of this podcast. And kind of as we draw it to a close, when you hear the phrase healthy and wealthy and wise individually, what does that mean to each of you, and any other mentorship or advice, anything that you want to share from the heart about those three things?
What it resonates with me with your healthy, wealthy, and wise is that you can have all the wealth you want to, in life, but if you don't have the health to continue your life, to be able to live your life with your family and friends and your loved ones, that wealth means absolutely nothing. You can't take that wealth with you. There's a very very famous gentleman that had came up with the idea and the concept of many phones that we have right now. Well, he came up with he ended up having a health condition, and he has all the money in the world that he could easily spend, but he didn't have his health. But he couldn't take his wealth with him. So it's very important to make sure that you get the wisdom, the wise part, the wisdom to make sure that you do what's necessary to stay healthy, but then also stay alive enough so that way you can create that wealth for your family and friends.
Yeah, wise is definitely first, because again, when you start with wisdom, it enhances everything else. At the end of the day, in order for you to be healthy, you got to know how. In order for you to be wealthy, you have to know how. And in order for you to be wise, you're going to have to attach yourself to wise people. At the end of the day, When you go and it's just like going to the gym. You know, you don't go to the gym and ask for advice for somebody who just signed up the same day as you. You know, you go pay the extra money for the trainer. You know, or you go get a dietitian to prep your meals. You know, or you go and you just go educate yourself, right? And like I said, same thing with income. When you look at what all of the wealthiest people in the world right now are doing, you know, at the worst time of the world right now, is all the wealthiest people in the world right now are aggressively investing. You know, they're opening up businesses, they're creating new access points for financial flow. You know, they literally are operating in spaces that they never operated in before. They're not doing what's comfortable. You know, they're doing what's smart. You know, and so right now, when you look at having an open mind, you know, that's probably going to be the best thing that you can have right now. Look at everything that comes your way and without judging it, because what's going to happen is 5 years from now, you know, 3 to 5 years from now, when this thing is all over with, somebody's going to look up and see something on MSVCN or Shark Tank or something that was on Shark Tank or something that you was presented with that somebody made a flat out fortune on, and you pass it up because you was closed minded. Okay, healthy, wealthy, and wise. I mean, again, start with the wise and really and truly progress into the health and the wealth.
And it's so ironic because I also thought of that title because I can't speak for you on both of these things, but I lost my health and my wealth. It cost me a fortune. However, it led me to you guys, and you gave us the wisdom so we could rebuild our health, rebuild our wealth. And so it's just kind of funny how the universe, if you don't focus on those three things, something's going to bring you to your knees and teach you. Do you have anything to add about health and wealth and wisdom? Anything else?
No, I think that was very well presented and summarized. Loved it.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to honor everyone's schedule. This was amazing. Like I said, we could go for an hour. We might have to do part 2, and we can all be wearing our football jerseys for that one. And if anybody has any questions, you know, feel free to comment below, and we'll maybe have some part 2. What else we could cover, because this topic is so important, so relevant, and so broad, and so
I have a question for you, Lois. Do you have a moment to take maybe 2 questions?
Yeah.
Just 2 or 3 questions. Just and I'll because you do have people on, and you may have some people who, you know, because we talk at people a lot of times when we're on podcasts and we're on videos and we talk around what may be troubling some people and may not hit it on the head. But do you see a question, 2 or 3 in there that you may want to ask, and if that's all right with you?
Absolutely. This was all about your schedule. So if anybody has any questions, and sometimes questions I've found with topics like this are sometimes a little difficult to share in a public forum. However, if you guys have any questions for Mr. and Mrs. Bean or ourselves, we'd be happy to answer them, because I have a saying, you know, no one succeeds alone. There's no such thing as a cute, stupid question, and we'd love to support you guys in answering anything that you have going on right now. And then while we're waiting for a question or 2, I'll even look on my phone. Do you guys have anything else to add specific to the colorblind marriage or specific to biracial children or anything else while I look for questions?
Well, one thing I would say about marriage, period, you know, regardless of whether it's biracial or not, keep everybody out of your business.
Yeah.
You know, I can say right now, if the more people know about your marriage, the less of a marriage you'll have. You know, again, if you ever want to get divorced and want to find yourself out of a marriage, put people in your business. Yeah, literally, because, you know, this is the thing I understand about marriage is that you're 2 different people with 2 different families, and their alliances are with the people who they belong to. Okay, and so the first time, you know, Didier goes and tells, you know, his brother or sister, somebody about something that Lois did, when he forgives her, and he will, okay, they're not going to forgive her, and they're going to hold against her for the rest of her life, and vice versa. And they're going to bring it up, you know, in private all the time, and they're going to make sure he feels it or she feels it all the time. And what's going to happen is they're going to drive a wedge through you in your marriage, you know. So please keep people out of your marriage if you ever want to have one.
And marriages aren't easy. You know, it's not like, you know, that little stroll in the park. It's not. It does take work. 15 years for us to be together, that's like praying on a miracle for us. But we made that miracle happen. You know, we made that miracle happen. And that was one of the keys to our successful marriage, is keeping our families out of it. And, we didn't allow them to know anything that we didn't want them to know. And so we always said, look, we got in this mess together. We're going to get out of this mess together. And that was something that we took, seriously. That's, we just kept people out of our business. And don't just be quick to say the D word, the D meaning divorce. I don't like to say the word, so I said the D word. Don't be quick to say that word, because once you introduce that word into your household, into your family, that word is kind of like an energy. It stays there. And so you have to move that energy. Energy moves around. That's what it's supposed to do. And unless you want that energy to stay there, you got to move it on to the next person or on to the next thing. And so that way you don't have that type of energy in your house. Every time you speak of something negative, of separation or the D word or whatever the case may be, that continues to stay within the other person's head, even though you might have moved on, even though you might have changed the subject or have different feelings. That thought process is still in that other person's head. And so you don't want to introduce that type of dialogue or language into your family, into your household, into your marriage.
Yeah.
I've got two great questions. Are you guys ready?
Sure.
So this is from my friend Artem, and he's so deep and philosophical. So this is awesome. So, have you embraced uncertainty as certainty?
Yes, from day one. Nothing is predictable. Like I said, life is what it is. You just have to be. It's not. We have a philosophy of when it happens as opposed to if it happens. And so it's just being prepared for things, because you're prepared emotionally and mentally for those things. There's nothing that can happen to us that's impossible. When we talk to you guys about the Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. Once you've been through something and you've been through that process, nothing that you can ever go through again will be deemed impossible. Everything is possible. So we just understand that it's impossible, regardless of how tough it may be, but it's definitely possible, and we expect it to happen, not if it happens.
Awesome. There was another question here from Jonathan Charpentier, who earlier was joking about Didier should run for president. So he's going back, noticing, and we don't want to get political or religious, all those kind of things, but we know that the election's coming up, and how will we find solutions if we keep fighting instead of uniting? And he says, do you want to run for president? We need honest people to unite people. Do you feel the same?
Well, hold on. I don't want him to run for president because presidents don't get paid enough.
The thing about voting is this: the moment everybody stops voting based on their color and their race, and start voting based on the person who has your best interests at heart, I think you'll actually get what you want out of your president, or out of your your Senate members, or out of your whoever it is that you're voting for, your mayors, your governors, what have you. It doesn't matter. I just think that when it comes to president, it's a position that too many people rely on to begin with. First of all, you're the president of your household. You are, whether you're a man or woman, you're president of your household. You control your economy, the economic climate in your household. You control that. Start there first, but the education, I really do believe that we need to start educating everybody on the city level, type stuff. Who's electing the judges, who's electing the mayors, and all these things, that people who make the decisions on your level, the things that affect you the most right away, and people who stand for what you stand for, and then work your way up. Because at the end of the day, it starts right around your corner in your neighborhood. Don't try to fix the nation until you fix your backyard.
If it's to be, it's up to me. Be the change you want to see in the world. So that's awesome. Any other questions? Any other last minute questions? Do you have anything else that you can think of?
No. Yeah.
And I'd never run for president, by the way. Like hold some bugs. I don't want his job. I want to have a life. The presidents don't have a life. Like I said, Donald Trump is enjoying his life right now. He's probably the only president that enjoys his life. But it's like when you look at people who are in those positions, they don't have a life. It's like they have the burden of the world on their shoulders. And I make a better vice president than president. Like just at the end of the day, like I make a better leader in the company than the owner of the company. because I don't want to be burdened with I only got one life to live. And my life is to make, my life and everybody's life that's attached to me better, and so whether it be my business partners around the world globally and the people around my house, that's my job. That's my responsibility. I'm okay with that. But once you put the whole entire nation, on your shoulders, that's an unenviable task for anybody. I would wish on anybody. It takes a special type of animal to be the president of the United States of America.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, amen to that.
Okay.
And one last question, and then in case anybody else has one, because this came up with the idea about voting, and you talk about being the president or CEO of your household, your life. There's oftentimes times where they say there isn't enough minority voter turnout, and now we're seeing that's increasing for a lot of reasons. Do you want to speak on that, or why do you think that has happened in the past, and how can it change for the future?
Well, you remember, just start with the incarceration, factor. When you look at all the people who get incarcerated, they can't vote. And so when you look at, all the targeted areas, where police are putting people in jail, I'll arrest you now, prove your innocence later. Oh, by the way, you have a record, and those type of things. It's certain things and certain dynamics that are set up to where you have people who were, not allowed to go to the polls. Legally, they're not allowed to go to the polls because we've always seen the what do you call them, documentaries on how way back in the day how there was violent, forced threats, murder, all kind of burning down houses and churches for people who wanted to go vote when they wanted to go vote. So for people to not understand that, again, it's something you should do a little bit of research on before you judge on that, because it's not that African American people don't care about voting. You got to think about the conditioning process in which we were, led to not vote. Period. It's a process, and so you have to now recondition yourself and recondition the masses. And like my wife said, it starts at the house. And some of these people are to the point to where they're hopeless. They've been conditioned so bad, to where now it's like you got to wait for the people who will vote in the masses when it comes to African Americans. Or probably become like the next generation coming up who are not able to vote now, but who will be able to vote based on them coming up in a different environment and different culture. So it's a lot of different reasons. Like you said, that's a whole entirely different. This is the type of stuff I'm letting my kids watch on TV and let them see why they should vote and where they should, what they should vote for, and why it's a privilege, to vote, because you have people who died, so that you can vote. And so at the end of the day, I really want everybody. And if you haven't seen the Blue-Eyed Brown-Eyed Experience, oh my God, about Jane Elliott, go and watch that, please. It's on YouTube. It was one of the most profound and impactful things that I was able to watch, and I can just say it did something for me. And when I did it for my kids, but it did something to me just watching it. So, again, I think more people who watch that would have a better understanding of how people have been conditioned, not just African American people, but Caucasian people, how they've been conditioned as well, growing up, to where it's not necessarily you've been raised to be racist. It's just certain different things that has people thinking that you are, you may not be. And so it's just us trying to understand each other and really having a really good desire, to not just understand each other, but to go ahead and become change after we can understand it.
Awesome. Now we have, let's see here, Didier for president, Sam for vice president. So just so you guys know.
I say the president always dies. Vice president.
It's only because you're a Vikings fan that he said that.
Yeah, possibly. I created the Department of the Vikings as president.
Well, I know Jonathan also said something about, solutions need to come from the people. And I know for me, losing my health, losing my wealth really, really was a conscious interrupt for me, and the best thing that could have ever happened, because I came from a background of just believe what I say. This is gospel, this is truth. Don't ever question anything. Just do as you're told. And until I hit 30 years of age, I'm glad I didn't have kids until I was in my 30s, because I would have brought my kids up very differently, because I wasn't truly conscious. I was just going through the motions of my programming, and my subconscious mind was driving me to be successful but I was really not in my own definition of success now.
Right, right.
Yeah. No, it's strong. It's powerful. And I appreciate you putting this together here today. I really, hopefully somebody got something out of it, and we provided some value for somebody. But again, it takes all of us. This is our country. This is our nation, regardless of how it came to be, and it's up to us to fix it. And so this is not, the first time that we marched and picketed and protested, side by side. We've been doing this forever. And so now we just need to continue to do it and continue to make sure that you have more people out there, fighting, because at the end of the day, I can't speak to people who don't understand me. I need you to speak for me, and vice versa. So when it comes to me, I've had, I don't know how many conversations, over the last month or so with different people on why not to be angry and how useless they are to us, by acting in anger. And so I need you to act in a different way, and I need you to really come and bring something else to the table besides. And your anger is justifiable, but it's not helping us. And so at the end of the day, ignorance is again, it's just one of those things. And ignorance is not it's one of those things. It just means you don't know. And the more people who get educated, the better off we'll be. But the thing about it is, most people won't receive education from people who don't look like them. And so again, if you can, do us all a favor, and let's all do our part.
Yeah, observe the masses and do the opposite. I actually love being the minority right now. This is so much fun for me.
I do want to say, some last parting words, and just to speak to the audience about the fact of, adversity breeds opportunity. And right now, there's a lot of adversity that's going on in America. Wherever you're chiming in from, all over the globe, there are adversity that's taking place. The question is, what are you doing about it? Take a stand. Whether it's the right stand or your stand, whatever it is. There's no right or wrong. Just make a stand and stand for something and do something about it. And that just means that whether you're going through some turmoil with your relationship, being biracial, being single parent, adversity of what's going on out there with COVID, adversity of the George Floyd scenario, and all the other scenarios that stood before him that represented where we are today. Take a stand. What opportunity are you going to take advantage of? Because there are a lot of adversities that you could fully maximize on taking a stand of and sharing this opportunity to be able to say, hey, you know what? This is right. This is wrong. This is where it's at. This is where we go. And don't feel like you don't have a voice. Everybody has a voice. And even if you might not have the physical voice of verbalizing it, there's sign language. There's a different language. You still have a voice. Go out there and do something about it. Make a change in this world so we can be that melting pot, so we can stand for justice, so we can make sure that we stand proud with our flag flying.
That's awesome. And you make a great point. I just want to add on the power of what you said right now is it can make or break. It can manifest a disease or prevent a disease if you use your voice. What I'm saying by that is I have a thyroid disease. It's in my throat, right? Which is a symbol of a subconscious manifestation that I didn't believe I had a voice back in the day. And that's another reason why I call this healthy and wealthy and wise, because if you don't speak your truth, if you don't go out there and make a difference and you hold yourself back because of limiting beliefs or family or things you don't think you should do because someone said that, just know that it creates other problems. So it's kind of a deep thing to mention at the end here, but I love what you said, Mrs. Bean, that's so true and so powerful and can impact you and generations to come.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you so much for having us.
Yay.
Thank you for being guests today.
So if you guys, did you hear something? I don't think I heard it.
There's that voice.
Remember, this goes to post-production. I might just cut that out.
We should have been driving it in the background every single second.
Yeah. So now it's Kim for president, Lois for VP. So we've changed it into women.
Yeah. Nice.
But thank you guys again for being here, and thanks all of you who are tuning in live. And just if you found this of value, please hit the share button. Okay, please share it with all people that you know, all of humanity, any country, race, religion, creed. We want to reach the masses. That's why we did this. You know, this isn't about just us. This is about humanity and reaching as many people as possible. And if you want the recording, the post-production without the Packer stuff in it, wink, wink, I'll leave it in. It's fun. But so go to healthywealthyandwise.com, which you should see on the screen, and subscribe, and you'll receive the post-production recording. Thank you guys again. Until next time. In fact, tomorrow I have another podcast at 12:30 Pacific time on specifically on the topic of health. So please come back often. Until next time, we wish you all the health, all the wealth, and all the wisdom. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Healthy, wealthy, and wise.